All right, folks, it's hard to believe, but it's week 11 in the National Football League. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas, geared up for you here at bangthebook.com. Great follow on Twitter at Bang the Book, and the Sports Betting Podcast has you covered with great information on all sports, with college hoops up and running as well right now. Let's dive into week 11 in the NFL and tell you where we think the numbers may go here. Detroit, 3-point favorite at Chicago. Total on the game is 41.5. Boy, Detroit would love to have that game back a few weeks ago where they gave it away against Pittsburgh, got the win at Cleveland. Chicago, just when you think they may be turning a bit of a quarter, they get beat by the Packers. Total on the game is 41.5. Kansas City at the Giants. Man, can you believe the Giants catching 10.5 points at home? The Chiefs, I would say they've hit a wall a little bit, but this is still a very talented football team that can start to find a rhythm. And Andy Reid, we know what Andy Reid's all about off a bye. Those numbers speak for themselves, and that's part of the reason that is such an inflated number. Tampa Bay at Miami. Miami laying one, total 41. Do you trust either of those teams? I don't. That one's completely your call. Baltimore, 2.5 at Green Bay. To the Packers' credit, they were able to get the job done against Chicago. But this Ravens team, very quietly, kind of hanging around. Total on the game is low, 38. We'll see if the injuries for the Packers on offense try to get that running game going a little bit. Williams is going to be the running back with Montgomery now nicked up as well. Rams in Minnesota. If I had told you back in June or July that the featured game of the week in week 11 in the NFL would be the Rams and the Vikings, you might have had me put in a straitjacket. Can you believe this? Minnesota, 2.5 point favorite. Total in the game is 46. I think there's a lot of love for the Rams here. I'm wondering if you'd ever see a 3 in this spot. But with the injury to Aaron Rodgers, we felt it benefited Minnesota the most. But this Rams team, they're blowing people out. Their offense is clicking. But know this, they are going to get better defensively as this season gets going with Wade Phillips. What a football game this is. And think about it. We start to now look down the road because this game could end up having an impact on who gets home field advantage against the opponent. These two teams could be on a collision course for the playoffs. It's a big football game. Arizona and Houston. Arizona's a mash unit. Stanton is nicked up in the game. He is listed as questionable. Houston, just a mess. Savage just can't get it done. And Will Fuller with the rib injuries, totals 40.5. Jacksonville got a win against San Diego. How, I couldn't tell you. They tried to give it away with unsportsmanlike conduct penalties with personal fouls. Chargers just gave it to them. And here's the other thing. Jacksonville laying 7.5 on the road to anybody. I know the Browns have yet to win, but all of a sudden you get the weight of expectation. Sometimes that's a very foreign thing for a football team trying to figure it out. That hook could come in big here. Cleveland, the other thing, look at them. This is maybe one of their most winnable games the remainder of the season. And they probably look at that schedule and say, if we don't win this one, we may not get a win all year long. I think the Browns show up fighting in this game. Washington and New Orleans, Saints are a machine, and they're doing it. Run and stop the run. Breeze doesn't even have to throw the football. That impressive. They're 7.5, 8-point favorites. Totals up there 50.5, 51. Even against that good defense, Washington does put points on the board, but they can't stop anybody. Buffalo and the Chargers. Buffalo's been flat out rolled in back-to-back games by the Jets and by the Saints, and the Chargers 3.5, 4-point favorites. Some places even 4.5. Traveling cross-country back home for this game after having a punch to the gut again. Don't necessarily trust the Chargers either in this spot. Cincinnati and Denver, I couldn't tell you what to do with either of these two teams. The Bengals are a hound's breakfast. Denver's better at home, laying 2.5 in this spot. Then you get New England, who's back. Unbelievable. Brady's got the Patriots cranking. The offense is back. The defense is better. Playing in Mexico City against the Raiders, a 6.5-point favorite, some 7s. It's going to close 7, even though the Raiders are a public team in here in Las Vegas. And to the credit of the Patriots, Belichick's no dummy. They're playing in Mexico City at altitude, so what does he do? They blow out Denver, they stay in Colorado and train in altitude. It's a smart organization. Not much more needs to be said than that. Then Philadelphia and Dallas. Philly 3.5 on the road against Dallas. That number would have been Dallas -6 at the beginning of the season. And now you've got Elliott suspended. Prescott, I don't know how he survived the game against Atlanta. He was just pummeled. The offensive line for Dallas is falling apart at the seams. Total on the game is 48.5. And Philly, we'll see if Jay Ajayi really gets it going here. First full game off a bye with the Eagles after the trade from Miami. And wrap it up with Atlanta and Seattle. Seattle's a 3-point favorite at home. total on the game is 45. And here are two teams that could be dangerous when the playoffs get here as a wild card. This is a game that could have playoff ramifications. Week 11, hard to believe in the NFL. Always glad to be with you at bangthebook.com. Follow along on Twitter at Bang the Book and the Sports Betting Podcast. Always good to be with you. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas. We'll play it back again next week.